If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi guys, welcome to Peer2Peer. My name is Jay and today's guest is Wesley. Wesley, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Sweet. All right, let's get into this. Tell me about your mental health journey. Like, what do you deal with?
I have a case of major depressive disorder with psychotic traits, and it's kind of been something I've dealt with ever since middle school.
In middle school, so it didn't start popping up until you were like 12, 13, around that age?
Yeah, shortly after a certain occurrence happened.
I gotcha. So I know we've had quite a few guests on here already that deal with major depression. Can you tell us what's different about yours?
Well, with mine, whenever I have a trigger occurrence, it causes my heart rate to accelerate and everything in my head starts to just bounce around and I hallucinate. I see things that aren't there. I hear things that aren't there. And mostly it's my name being called in an aggressive tone. And it's kind of scary.
So do you have any other triggers besides that?
Most of the triggers are things that are like when someone's aggressive with me, getting hostile towards me, and also kind of like certain family oriented hostilities.
Mm.
Like if I see someone getting abused by a parent, for example, that is another trigger.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense with that. So, growing up, what kind of adversities did you have to face having this? Like, was this something that got in the way of your schooling when you were in middle school or high school?
It definitely did get in the way, but it was not really truly discovered with what kind of disability it technically was back then, because my father always just dismissed it as me being sad. Oh, he's just a boy. He's being upset about no reason. And I didn't get therapy until I was in my mid-teens. And even then, the therapy only covered generic depression. They didn't understand that I had more than just depression. So it was always crippling to me, and I didn't really get professional help until just recently, in fact.
And so you had a long time of like not really having a full answer then, right?
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't even know what I truly had until I was like in my late 20s.
And that's something that's heavily relatable. I mean, I know for me, I didn't get diagnosed with like ADHD recently. Yeah, until like the last couple months or so. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's a day in your life like dealing with this?
Um, I have to do a lot of daily practice and medication. I usually would take my citalopram to help control my responses, and it does take a little bit of a toll. I do feel a little bit more tired whenever I take my medication, but that's to be expected. But if I don't take it and I just carry on about my day, I can feel the difference. And sometimes even if I do something myself that causes a trigger, I will have a moment of like accelerated breathing, and my partner has to like rush down to me and be like, okay, let's sit down, let's count over your steps, let's count some numbers, feel this, let's do your five senses, just something to help me bring it down and keep me level grounded. It's a lot of extra work, and it's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. So I take it your partner contributes to a lot of making you feel comfortable with this sort of thing.
Yes, and he actually has his own disabilities, so I help him out with his, and he helps me out with mine. So we kind of piggyback off of each other to try and bring each other up.
Oh,
It's uh, it's a lot of work, but we benefit from it, which is why we really do keep this relationship healthy.
that's really cool. I like hearing that because so many people with depression and other mental health problems, they think they can't really have anything like that. So yeah, kudos to you
Yeah,
guys. Um, let's see. So I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fog moment.
that's okay.
So, what do you do to cope with it exactly? Like besides your partner going through the five senses with you and whatnot?
My other ways of handling it, um, I do a lot of sitting in my own personal space, which is right here where I'm at. And I use other forms of social activities, VR chat, just talking with some individuals, and just basically opening up to others. It kind of does help me with myself, and I've made a lot of friends that way.
That's pretty
And
cool.
video games also is another one. Mostly it's the casual gaming and communicating with them on their Discord channels. It really does help build me up and as well have me understand them, them understand me. It's a blessing, honestly.
So, what kind of games are you into? Like, what do you do on Discord and all that?
There's a lot of games I play, and if I'm feeling competitive, I do play things like League of Legends, but as soon as I start feeling like it's putting a negative impact on me, I will stop what I'm doing with that game and play something a lot more peaceful. And one of the games recently that I picked up that's actually kind of therapeutic is Hard Space Shipbreaker, which is literally just here you are in outer space and you take apart and dismantle spaceships for profit. And the only thing that can be uh, a negative impact about that is like if you accidentally use your laser cutter and hit a gas line and kaboom. But it's actually very therapeutic because I love space, I love science, and going to outer space is certainly a dream of mine.
Have you always had that dream since you were a kid?
Um, it's kind of bounced around in my younger years, but in my teens, it was definitely I wanted to go to space. And when I heard about SpaceX, I've been following them ever since.
That's pretty awesome, dude. So, kind of going back to your childhood, did you have a lot of friends growing up?
No, actually. Um, in my elementary years, I only had like two, maybe three friends at best. A lot of people avoided me, and I was always a little quirky. Like my personality was a lot more hyperactive compared to most other students. And by the time it was middle school years, that's when depression started hitting me, and even more so, people kind of refrained from wanting to be my friends because they were afraid that they might be a negative impact on me. And I was just like, no, I could really use a friend, but they would do something that would trigger it unintentionally. And I didn't want that to be what would make us not friends, but it would happen anyways because they just didn't understand. And I totally understand that now more than I did back then.
Yeah, but I can see as a kid how that'd be frustrating though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Making friends was not always my strength, and I always relied on like fan clubs, like animes, book clubs, and whatnot. I even tried a chess tournament as a club. It didn't go so well. I'm terrible at chess, but it did help me a little bit along the run, but it didn't help me with myself more than it was to just create a social circle, you know?
Mm. Yeah, so would you say that having community was very important to you?
Having people to be with and socialize with does help. And it's hard to say, that it's going to be a guarantee or not, because everyone's different. And there's some people that react negatively or respond negatively to something they don't truly understand. Because I've actually had people, when I opened up saying that I have this depressive disorder, they go, "Oh, you're just a wimp."
That
And it's
sucks.
just like, whoa, back off. It's just they don't understand, and everyone responds differently. So it's always best to build a network of friends that are very understanding.
And how difficult would you say it is in this day and age to, have that network or to make it happen?
Um, well, at my age now, and with the technology that we have today, it's a lot easier than it was back then. Because back in like the late 90s and early 2000s, it was very difficult. I mean, not everyone had a cell phone, not everyone had the internet access available. It was only who you were around. And
Mm.
public schools, the variety of kids that are there tend to be very rambunctious and somewhat pretty negative too. Like there was always those groups that had their own little collections, and they're like, "We don't want you to be part of our circle," you know? And it's just like, well, why can't I? They never would give you a proper answer. It was just they didn't want you, so everyone else didn't get to be your friend because of that. Stupid reasons.
So like clicks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Is
But
this oh, go ahead.
but definitely today, it is a whole lot better. And with having access to things like Discord or Zoom meetings and whatnot, we have all of these technologies to have FaceTime with people to open ourselves up to, and it's a blessing that we have this kind of technology today. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally agree with you, man. You mentioned anime conventions and whatnot. Do you find it way easier to be yourself in that kind of setting?
Um, to a degree. Out in public, it's a little bit more difficult, but if I'm like, you know, in a convention, it is far easier because there's others out there doing the same exact thing. So I've gone to a couple of anime conventions and furry conventions, and I get to dress up and truly be myself without the worry of someone, looking down at me.
Mm.
And it's a lot comforting that I don't have to have that as a fear, because fear is one of my major triggers that causes me to get my spike.
Is it like a generalized fear, or is it like um when I say generalized fear, I mean like you think about something that's coming up and you're like, oh no, what do I do? Or is it like more of a primal fear?
Um, that's actually very difficult to say, because for me, the fear kind of like, I don't know how to best put it together in words, but it hits me in my chest, and then it creates a cycle of negative thoughts in my head, which then brings out an anxiety, panic, and sadness, and then it eats away at me, and then I'm hearing my own negative thoughts in my head, which makes me break myself down, which is why it's important for me to use my senses and bring me back to here and now instead of what's in here.
That makes sense. Are there what other things do you do to help you cope with like having an episode like that?
Deep breaths is a very important one. Um, the sensation of feeling something in my hands. So whether it be something that's bumpy or coarse, just something I can feel and describe it, and just it's more of a distraction really. But touch, taste, smell, sight, um, taste, those are all things to bring me here in the now instead of what's in my head.
Mm.
It does really help, and my therapist was the one that taught me how to do those.
Yeah, it's amazing how much knowledge they have that you wish that like schools and adults in general knew, right?
Yeah, I mean, considering my therapist has been doing this for like more than 15 years, I think. So she's got a lot of experience on this, and I'm truly blessed to have her as my therapist.
How did you go about finding your therapist?
Well, I was always struggling with also job employments and something, and I didn't know how to go on about it. So I did a mental evaluation with the state, and that's when they gave me my full diagnosis of my condition, and they suggested that I needed a therapist. And because it was through the state, they were able to arrange it to be paid for by state. And so I don't have to pay out of pocket for the help that I'm getting.
Well, that's cool.
So yeah, it is very cool. And most therapists, they're pretty expensive. And the fact that I don't have to pay at all, it's it's almost like people do want to help without having to make me go broke.
Yeah, because it usually costs an arm and a leg. I mean, if you're not covered by insurance or the state or anything.
Yeah, and considering I'm unemployed, it's hard to come by money.
Yeah, I mean, that's relatable. I'm right there with you. um, are you unemployed because of the pandemic?
I'm unemployed because of a circumstance that happened at my job. I used to work for Taco Bell, and I actually did have a bit of a breakdown on the work site. I had a bit of a breakdown because of some angry customers and my boss also getting on my case because of something I failed to perform. And I broke down crying, and instead of trying to do my senses, I just lost complete control and I just ran. And the next thing I realized, I ran headfirst into a brick wall. They were worried. They sent me to a clinic to get looked at, seeing if I had any head trauma or anything. They took me off for like a couple of weeks of work, brought me back in for much less hours of work that I could do. And when I told them I need more hours of work, instead of giving me more hours, they took more hours off instead. And I said, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to survive off of this type of income. I'm going to have to just find another job. And that's what I did. I ended up quitting Taco Bell because of that.
Well, first off, I'm really sorry that you had to go through that and have people that weren't really empathetic towards your situation. I mean, that's a really shitty thing that I've noticed that some companies, the moment they find out you have a disability, mental illness, anything like that, it's like they do whatever they can to make sure that you don't succeed.
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle, and a lot of businesses and CEOs, they don't really put a lot of focus into people who have these problems and creating something to help them with that. They just want someone who can just do the job and just continue on.
Yeah, like cogs in a machine, basically.
Exactly.
And
I
that's,
ain't no cog, that's for sure.
yeah, I was about to say, you're a human being and you deserve respect, man. Like, it's just crazy because I know for myself, I've dealt with a lot of jobs and places of employment where the moment they found out that I had fibromyalgia, my 40-hour weeks turned to 25-hour weeks. And then they just keep on chipping you from there. It's,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly the same circumstance with me and Taco Bell. It's just a different scenario.
Yeah, it's crazy how common it is. I mean, in this day and age, too, with like all the mental health awareness that we have, that's still
Hmm.
a problem. So, another question that I had for you, um, kind of going back to video games, like, do you have any other ones you'd recommend for people that have depression or anything that you deal with?
Ooh, honestly, a good game that I like to play that helps combat depression is Minecraft. It's a good game on peaceful, and you can just freely build whatever you want. You don't have to worry about enemies or anything. And there's all kinds of other games. Like I have a gallery of like 288 games that I can play from. And golly. There's this one game that I play that is how do I put it? It's not like combat heavy, and it's very satisfying in which you get to build a bunch of factory machines, and you can take it apart, rebuild it, and make it more efficient. It's called Satisfactory, if you've ever heard of it.
Oh, I actually haven't. It sounds interesting.
You literally get dropped onto a planet, and you get to harvest the resources on the planet and build machines to get minerals, um, harvest plants and stuff, and then use those materials to build machines. And then you can make those machines auto harvest for you. You can build train systems when you get to that point. It's pretty chill, honestly.
Actually, sounds like a really cool game. Is it free? Is it on PlayStation, Xbox, stuff like that?
Uh, it's on Steam, and
Oh,
it's not
cool.
free.
Oh. It's like I shot up a little bit in happiness, and it's like, oh, it's not free. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, there's also some other games, and honestly, Satisfactory is not expensive. But I also play Gunfire Reborn. It's a shoot 'em up game where you play as this cat character, and you get random guns, and you go through these randomly generated dungeons. It's pretty fun too. And honestly, I have a weakness for randomly generated games, like bullets per minute,
Ooh,
which is a game where you have to use rhythm to time your when you fire your gun and when you reload your gun. And different guns have different patterns on their reload patterns and shooting patterns. So a 2-barrel shotgun, pow, pow, click, 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 pow, 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 it's it's pretty fun.
yeah, it sounds like fun. So would you say like the rhythm of it kind of keeps you like in check?
Yeah, actually. Um, Whenever you get to a boss, the song does change, but it still keeps the same rhythm, the same beat. And plus, I like metal music, so bullets per minute and metal music with a shoot 'em up game, that's like a win-win situation for me.
Yeah, it's like you get the best of both worlds. It's like you get to focus and um, get to tune out everything, but also you got like the metal and the screaming, and it's like, yes, this is how I'm feeling. Haha.
Oh, there's no screaming in the metal music on bullets per minute. It's just straight
Oh,
up
really?
guitar. Yeah,
Ooh,
it's just straight up
nice.
guitar and drumming. That's it.
Well, that's cool because I'm used to like metal having like screaming and all sorts of stuff going on in it.
Yeah, there's no screaming at all.
Well, that's cool. I gotta definitely take notes of this one for later.
Yeah, definitely check out bullets per minute. It's a really fun game.
And bullets per minute. If you're out there and you hear this, contact me, sponsorship, please. So, going back to like getting a therapist and struggling with that, what would you be doing right now if you didn't have access to a therapist? Say the state didn't cover it. Like, how do you think you survive with what you have?
If I didn't get my therapist, I wouldn't have gotten the help I needed to get my medication. And if I didn't get my medication, I probably would still be getting some serious cases of spikes in my behavior pattern. And honestly, I've had moments of suicide back in the day,
Mm.
and it was really dark back then. And I didn't know how to handle things. Things got really rough on me, and I tried to take my life on different cases. But a lot of my friends did help pull me back out of it with usually the same thing of saying that doing such a thing is very selfish because you are only just taking your pain and giving it to someone else. And it kind of hit me hard. And I've been using that as my go-to of saying, if I do this, I'm going to hurt my family, I'm going to hurt my friends. So I need to be strong for them.
So, because I don't know how many people are out there that have a therapist, like, if you're cool with it, like, how do they help you navigate feelings like that?
They're not the best at it, but it's a lot of just sitting down and telling me that no matter what I do, they still care about me, they still love me, and they understand that times are hard, and it's especially harder for someone with my case. And they just want to let me know and understand that no matter what, there's people out there that care for me and want everything in the world to be better for me, and they would give what they could for me. So it's kind of like a form of support, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So,
And yes.
yeah, no, go ahead. I mean, if you have more thoughts, go for it.
Oh, it's okay. I kind of already forgotten what I was going to go with it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
um, I had a I had a question about like therapy for you because I mean, it took me about 4 years before I kind of quote unquote graduated from it with my PTSD and what have you. I guess like where do you see your journey going with therapy? Like, do you see yourself like getting better? Do you see like more goals coming up for you? Um, Aspirations or anything?
Um, for me, it's still kind of in its middle phase. My therapist wants me to continue on with my steps and senses so that I can keep myself level. And there are moments when I'm feeling really good, feeling really positive, and then she wants me to continue to focus on those. But there still are points in my time where there is always going to be a trigger out there which sends me right back, and
Mm.
then I have to go back to the ground steps and work myself back up again. And it's a rough process, and the unfortunate thing is there is no cure for it. It's something that takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, and patience.
So when people say like, "Oh, you only need it for a couple months and then you're good to go," like, what do you say to that?
Bullshit. It doesn't just go in a month. It doesn't go in a week. For some, it doesn't even really go in years. And me, I've had this since I was a kid, and I'm already in my, early 30s. So that's evidence right there that it doesn't just go away.
Yeah, it seems to be a common like misconception that people have, especially when they don't know a whole lot about therapy. They think, "Oh, you go in, you come out, you're fine, everything's dandy," and it's like, no, there's levels to this.
Yeah, I mean, I've known some people who think that therapy is literally you go in, they break you down, and then put you back together again. And I'm like, no, they don't break you down. They want to understand you better, so they want you to answer a couple of questions. And then they want to understand what your triggers are and where they can help build you up from. They want to know your interests, your likes, your dislikes, and they will work with you wherever you are at. And they always keep every case, unique. They tailor up their jobs, and they work with each person for their individual needs, not just generic what the public thinks that therapists do.
Mm. Yeah, and if you ever get a therapist that wants to break you down, run.
Yeah, I've never had a therapist break me down, fortunately.
That's good. So, do you see yourself like staying with the therapist that you have now?
I assume there's probably going to be a point where I probably will get to the point that I won't need a therapist.
Hmm.
But I don't see it as anytime very soon, because there's a lot of things that I still really do need a lot of help and focus on, and a lot of deeper understanding, because there's a lot of primal things about the human body that causes these fight or flight responses. And she's given me a lot of insight about it. And that just alone tells me how much infancy my knowledge on this whole subject is, truly. So I'm definitely going to stay with my therapist until I myself know that I'm ready to move on without the need of that kind of assistance.
So, have you gone outside of therapy? Have you gone out of your way to research like what you have?
Before I had my therapist, I was doing a lot of research and I kept on coming across things saying that I might be, like a high functioning autistic. I might have ADHD or post traumatic stress disorder. And I was like, I might have PTSD because the traumatic events that occurred from my father, but I don't truly have like that immediate PTSD response that I see most others have. And then again, there's also different scales. There's some people that have huge responses and there's some people that have little responses. So that's why I sought out professional help so that way I could truly understand it even better from a professional instead of just myself.
Do you find it helpful, like Googling like symptoms and such, or do you feel like that gives you like too much anxiety or stuff like that?
In honesty, it does give a little bit of anxiety because then it kind of brings out, well, what if I have this? What if I actually do have that? This might have some similarities to this. So then I end up creating these negative thoughts in my head, which make me panic. Like, what if I am truly this? What if I'm a freak because of it? And then I just start going backwards. So honestly, it's best to have someone who knows a lot about these kinds of cases to speak with you about it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I agree with. I mean, there's only so much too, like you can Google up and know the answers to. But I find that a lot of people so far that I have interviewed have mentioned that they kind of use it as a jumping off point before they actually go get the help that they need.
Like, if you want to get a quick understanding, then yeah, it'll give you some ideas of where you can start from. But it's not just, A, B, and C. It's a spectrum of, in between those as well. So it's definitely important to have someone who understands it more to tell you rather than just using a quick search because you could even be leaving out little bits of information that could narrow it down for you.
Yeah, definitely. So, I want to ask you too, regarding the pandemic, has this made your mental health like worse, or in some ways has it helped? Because I know for some people it's been like a hit and miss.
It's it's kind of a combination of beneficial and not beneficial at the same time. Beneficial in a sense that I don't really need to worry too much about being out in the public. Being out in public does kind of bring out anxiety in me. Um, but honestly, the fact that I get to stay home a lot more often is peaceful. um, but there are some cases where like I have to absolutely go out to the public to get things like food, clothing, soaps, and I want to try and be careful as possible. So I would wear a mask. I would, wash my hands, sanitize up and everything. Even my vehicle, I would wipe down everything that I touch. And I would see people not wearing a mask or they're, being obnoxious about, being told that they have to wear a mask. So they would spit at you. And it's just like, no, I don't want to be around that person.
That's gross. I mean, I've dealt with some really interesting characters during the pandemic, but I don't think I've had anybody spit on me before.
It's not pleasant. And it was
Ugh.
particularly at a Walmart. I simply just made a small response saying, uh, you're here in the store, masks are enforced. Please just put it back over your face. The guy looked at me and said, I ain't no sheep. And he spit at me.
Oh my God.
My first response was I turned around, ran to the first manager that I could find and said, that guy in aisle 3 spit at me. And I just stayed there next to the staff member until things were dealt with. And then my anxiety finally calmed back down. I'm like, thank you for helping me out.
Hey, well, I'm glad you were able to handle that, but
Yeah, there's some people out there who can't handle that. Some people probably would have a huge breakdown right there, and it took a lot of strength to hold my composure the way I did.
yeah,
I
definitely.
probably wouldn't have been able to handle this if I didn't have my therapy before.
Yeah, and props to you on that because it really does sound like it's done wonders for you, like helping you like manage your emotions and whatnot.
I probably wouldn't have even had the guts to have this interview.
And I'm really proud of you too for approaching me on it because I really do value people's stories with mental health, and I really hope that this encourages others to go out and get help and talk to people about it.
Yeah, I completely, full-heartedly say that the awareness really does need to be brought out to light. People need to understand, it's more than just a black and white case. It's a spectrum of colors in between, and each one needs to be tailored and helped.
Yeah, yeah, I'm under the impression that we need to have more catering to the individual needs, but there's um, at least in the some of the psychology forums and stuff I'm part of, there's been this big push to have more community based like therapy because there's only so many therapists out there and so many and they have like hundreds of clients. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, in some cases, I do think a community-based would actually be beneficial, because there's some people who have, a small spectrum on it. They're definitely, if they're definitely capable of handling a large group setting and sitting down and listening to it with a lot of people around, then definitely. But there's definitely some people out there that cannot be around large groups of people, myself included. So sometimes a smaller case, a smaller setting is probably important, even if it's only like 5 people, it does. It, I definitely agree that having it being more accessible, even for a large setting and small setting, both is important.
I was actually going to ask you something because you said for yourself that you don't do too well in groups, and yet you've gone to conventions where there's like tons and tons of people. So how do you manage that?
Um, it's like I said, I do dress up and wear costumes,
Mm.
and it kind of hides my identity, and that makes me feel comfortable. So I get to be someone else, and then I take on that personification. So if I dress up as like a big goofy wolf, then I'm going to be that big goofy wolf, and I don't need to worry about someone saying you're a weirdo. Well, that's kind of the point because he's a big goofy wolf. Or if I go to an anime convention and I dress up like, I don't know, maybe Kakashi, I'm going to be a serious guy and be all like, I'm a badass ninja. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, train in mind and spirit, then read your Makeout Paradise, right?
So creating a different identity is something that I do kind of rely on in those convention settings. But when I'm not in my costume and I just walk around as me, just dressed up the way I usually am, I tend to keep to myself. So I don't really socialize. And there's some people that do pull me aside and want to ask me questions. They're like, hey, how long have you been part of this convention? I keep it short and simple. And when they really do show that they really want to be my friend, then I open up a little bit more,
So it all just kind of depends on how you vibe well with the other person.
essentially.
Makes sense. Is there anything about your condition you wish that more people knew about?
Depression is more than just being sad. There's a lot of things in between. Um, Sometimes it can be self-afflicted thought patterns. Sometimes it could be a destructive pattern in behavior. And for me, in my case, it's self-destructive because, like, if I go out and I do something and fail at it, it's constantly in my head. You're a failure, you're a failure, you're a failure. If you do it again, you're going to fail again. And then I end up not wanting to ever do it again because of that. but I really want to do this again because it's something that I enjoy. Like, for example, my artwork, I love to draw. So I will draw, but there's times when I make mistakes on my drawings and I don't notice it until I'm finished, but I can't go back and fix it because it's already done and over with. And I don't know how to do those layers and whatnot. So then it's all like, look what you did. You're not a good artist. You're a failure at this. You shouldn't do it again. And I'm all like, no, I want to do this. It makes me a better person.
That's
So
relatable.
um, it's more than just, like I said, it's more than just being sad. It's a whole list of other things that happen in between that brings you down,
So,
whether it's something that happens from the outside or something that you've done personally or just a thought process that you have.
so it's definitely, it's non-linear. It's not just a straight line, like happy, sad.
Exactly. It's not just happy or sad. When you draw a line, it's more than just you draw from here to here. It's all over the place.
Yeah, like a lot of people like to look at depression like it's a straight narrow path, or they like to look at it as like an infinite circle. And I'm like, no, I think it's more squiggle, 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 hashtag, whatever.
Yeah, and you don't just fix the problem just by making them happy, because emotions are all temporary, of course, but what you feel in the end follows along with you as the days go by. And depression is in those days go by, and you need someone who can make that depression almost non-existent, someone who can help you out, which is kind of why I really do rely heavy on my partner, because he does help me forget about it sometimes, even if it's just his embrace, honestly.
If you didn't have your partner, do you think you'd be able to get that kind of happiness that you need from other people?
Had I not met my current partner, I probably would not be where I'm at today on my recovery. And sad to say, because of my cases of suicide back then, I probably would have been successful uh, back then had I not met him. So honestly, he's been the biggest blessing in my life. So yeah,
I don't know the guy, but I love him for what he's done for you.
he has done a lot for me, and I'm glad to have met him.
And I'm seriously happy for you because again, like I said earlier, it's very difficult for people with mental health and disabilities and such to find that kind of love and acceptance from people. So you're incredibly
Yeah,
lucky, and that it's heartwarming to hear that sort of thing.
yeah, and I even met him at a furry convention too.
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding. We met in the Headless Lounge. So I was wearing a squirrel outfit at the time, and he was wearing a rainbow fox outfit. And I approached him. I was just like, this is someone I can open up to. He's someone who's very open about being himself, and I wanted to learn more about him, and we hit it off very well. And we ended up getting into a relationship after a year and a half of friendship.
So how long have you guys been together since then?
We have been in an intimate relationship for over 5 years now, maybe going on 6.
Whew, dang, that's pretty impressive.
It's the longest I've ever been in a relationship. Every
Dang.
relationship before then, I've always had no longer than like a couple of months, some of them maybe shorter.
So are you guys thinking about maybe tying the knot or anything like that?
Oh, we do really want to have the saying that we're engaged, but the thing is that if we were to say that we're married, technically by legalities, it would change our income sources and whatnot, and it would say that because we are a unit, we would likely to lose some of our medical and benefits that we get from the state because we are one instead of separate individuals.
Oh my gosh, they can actually do that?
The state, yeah. So, for example, with him, he gets SSI, assistant income, And if I was to marry him, he would lose that SSI.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous, man. I mean,
Not much we can do about that.
yeah, it is what it is, but at the same time, though, that's just it's insane that you can't marry the person that you love without there being some big catch like that.
Yeah, but hopefully, when I do get a more substantial job that brings in a healthy amount of income and he does the same, then definitely it would something we would consider because I think honestly, anyways, it's better to be financially stable before you tie the knot anyways.
That's true. So, what kind of a job would you like to get?
um, it would be awesome if I could like almost like full-time do Twitch streaming, video game plays for, the internet out there. There's people out there that do it and they get, all of the money they need from it. Me, I just only started, so I'm only like getting, I don't know, on average 5 to 10 viewers a day whenever I'm streaming. And that's only like 2 months of streaming, $16. Not a whole lot of money at all. You can't live off of that. But it's definitely a dream. I would love to do that. But aside from doing that as a job, I could see myself probably doing, standard labor work because I'm physically built. I've done a lot of jobs in the past that involve like house moving, furniture moving, um, warehouse stuff, storages and whatnot. And easily I could just go from checkpoint A to checkpoint B and be done with the job. Plus, it's not a whole lot mentally stressing. It's physically stressing,
Yeah, but you're kind
but
of having repetition going on.
yeah, I can lift heavy things. I mean, I've even when I've done woodwork, there was this lady who had a tree fall down on her property, and we said we'll take the wood because we have a wood stove, and she just wanted it gone. She didn't want to have to pay anyone to have it gone, so we said we'll take it. And when we felled it up, and half of the log was still there, it was incredibly heavy. But here I am, and I lift it up over my shoulder and then bring it out over without any tools to the center of the cutting field. I just hucked it over my shoulder and just root. And she was just all like, that guy right there is strong. And I'm all like, why, thank you.
Dude, that's impressive.
Yeah, I kind of was raised to be strong, thanks to my father. Not mentally strong, but physically strong.
It's like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, yeah. My dad was always the sporty kind of be tough guy,
Mm, have like the machismo kind of thing where they feel like they got to be "Ugh," all the time.
Yeah, he's always been, everything has to be treated with an iron hand of justice. So um, if I was to disobey, he would have to like hold me to make me understand this has to be done this way.
Mm.
And years now, I look back at it, I'm all like, no, that's not how you're supposed to go on about it. You don't have to be, an iron justice hand to make sure something comes across.
Yeah, I blame that on cowboy syndrome from way back in the day.
Cowboy syndrome, I like that term.
Thanks. It was something I recently picked up on that I found out a lot of men have, and I'm like, oh, that explains so much shit.
Yeah, just the word alone gives it away because it's true. They live that way.
Yeah, but it's like in this day and age, it's way different. It's not black and white anymore.
Yeah,
So
it's
we have,
spectrum.
yeah, exactly. So we have about 5 more minutes left or so. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to share?
I would like to say, if you believe that you may have these kinds of cases in yourself with like depression or any other cases, it's best to open up, even to someone that you know and hold close, because keeping it to yourself can actually make things worse. So I definitely recommend opening up to someone, being true to yourself and to the other person, and wanting to seek some help, maybe if you believe that you need help, because it's not going to happen if you don't. And I wouldn't be getting better if I didn't come to terms with myself and saying, I need help. So I'm going to seek out the help. I wouldn't have got to where I'm at today. I wouldn't be, living in this wonderful house with a loving relationship and a healthy, happy family had I not, you know?
Most definitely.
It's pretty much the best advice I can give there is, just open up and be true with someone.
I couldn't agree more with you. And also, be sure to give me your link to your Twitch because I want to put you on blast a little bit.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll message you that.
All right, cool. Well, Wesley, it was really great having you on here. Again, I'm very proud of you for stepping up and approaching me wanting to come on here. And I really appreciate you just being vulnerable and being honest about your mental health journey and what it's meant to you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yep, thank you. Again, guys, that was Wesley for this episode of Peer2Peer. If you want to, consider supporting the podcast. If you go on to Anchor, you can easily do that. And also, too, the episode will be up on YouTube. Updates happen every Saturday. And if you want to share your mental health journey, feel free to contact me at Kitchen Raptor J on Twitter. And we'll see you next time. Bye.